It's time for the One Bar and Lupagus Show, bringing you anything and everything Minnesota Vikings.
Welcome to professional football.
All right, this is Lupagus here, and this is the One Bar and Lupagus Show. Today, I'm going to reveal my final 7-round Viking 2020 NFL mock draft. But before we get into that, be sure to subscribe to our channel if you have not yet done so. Like this video all week long. You don't want to miss all of the draft content we will be conceiving every single night of the draft. Cover all the prospects the Vikings take, grade each pick, and just get you familiar with some of these players you may not be that familiar with. So, time to kick off this mock draft. All right, first pick 22. I didn't do any trades or anything crazy like that. Just so hard to predict what could possibly happen. But it is quite likely the Vikings will move up or down, especially in the first round. A lot of guys they could target with similar values, but I'm just doing this straight up. Going to do all 12 picks. So the first pick 22, the Vikings select cornerback Christian Fulton from LSU. There's a lot of opinions when it comes to the third cornerback and who the Vikings should take here. Some people love Jeff Gladney. Some love A.J. Terrell. Some love Jalen Johnson. Personally, I like Christian Fulton. To me, he just makes more sense. He fits the Mike Zimmer mold with his size, 6 foot. I think it's flat 6 foot. Ran, I think, a sub 4.40 at the combine. He's got the length. He's got the size. So he just screams Mike Zimmer cover corner to me. He's got the press man coverage skills. Not a lot of production in college, but a lot of that is because teams just wouldn't throw the ball his way. So Christian Fulton, if he's there at pick 22, I think he's a Minnesota Viking and probably a starter in year one. Arguably more talented than Mike Hughes and definitely more talented than Holton Hill and Chris Boyd. All right, the Vikings stay put at pick 25. They're taking my boy, Denzel Mims, the big wide receiver from Baylor. Side speed combo here, 6'3", 4'3", I believe it was 7 speed at the combine. He probably won't have a huge role as a rookie. He needs to polish his route tree. He needs to work on some more routes. And, working with Adam Thielen every single day in practice will definitely, fix that little nick in his repertoire. But, man, you can see him getting deep, being that outside guy in the future for the Vikings. Kirk Cousins just tossed him the ball. And he's 6'3", so that'd make him be the biggest Vikings receiver on the roster right now. So maybe they use him in the red zone a little bit, throw him some jump balls as a rookie. But I still think he could potentially catch, 25 to 30 passes as a rookie and, maybe 3-4 touchdowns. So Denzel Mims, count on it. Wide receiver from Baylor, going to be a Viking. All right, that moves us into round 2, pick 58. The more I think about it, the more I've come to the realization the Vikings are going to take a defensive tackle here. And they could be a hell of a nice selection. The way the draft could unfold, they could be as many as 5 guys they could choose from. Neville Gallimore, Ross Blacklock, Justin Matabuke, Raekwon Davis, and Marlon Davidson could all be here. The Vikings need to have that 3-technique, penetrating defensive tackle who can create the interior pressure that Mike Zimmer's defense just feeds off of. And I'm taking Ross Blacklock from TCU. This guy is physical. He's quick. He can penetrate. He is an established pass rusher already. He kind of relies on his power and quickness. In college, he could use a few more pass rushing techniques, but working with Andre Patterson, I think, wouldn't take him time to develop those. Sky's the limit for this guy, and I think, he probably would end up as a starter, especially on passing downs for the Vikings as a rookie. Put him and Armon Watts there. That's a pretty dang good rotation. And you say goodbye to somebody like Jalen Holmes, who just has shown he's got nothing. So Ross Blacklock, round 2. I do think it's going to be a defensive tackle here. So kiss those dreams of a second-round safety or second-round wide receiver goodbye, because it's going to be a D tackle. All right, moving on to round 3. This is where the Vikings are going to grab their safety. Going to go with the small school stud Kyle Duggar from somewhere called Lenore Rhine. No one knows where that is. You watch this guy on tape. He's got a really big build. He almost looks like a running back out there. He's got wide shoulders. He's 6 foot. He can lay a big old hit. He's got really good ball skills. And, the Vikings wouldn't have to force him on the field early. They still have Anthony Harris for now and Harrison Smith. But what you would see Kyle Duggar early in his career for the Vikings would be as a return man. He's an excellent punt returner. I think he could make a splash right there as a rookie. So Kyle Duggar. Then eventually, maybe year two, depending what happens with Harris. And Harrison Smith is no young buck either. He's probably got 3 years left in him. So I think Kyle Duggar is an exceptional guy to add to your roster. Groom him as the heir apparent to one of those guys, and work him in slowly, special teamer, punt returner in year one. All right, second round 3 pick the Vikings got from the NFL for losing Sheldon Richardson last year. They're going to go offensive tackle Ben Bartch from St. John's. This guy's 6'6", 305 pounds. He just keeps getting better and better and progressing throughout his college career. He went to the Senior Bowl, held his own. I don't think he's a guy who can come in and potentially supplant Riley Reef right from the start. He probably play guard early in his career. Maybe halfway through year one, you look at maybe trying him out at left tackle, depending on how the season's going. Otherwise, you look for him to be the future starter at left tackle down the road. He's got the power. He's got the quickness. He can move laterally well, good footwork. So if he just keeps progressing, his ceiling is a quality starting left tackle in the NFL. So Ben Bartch, the Vikings have shown interest in him. They've even drinking his nasty milkshake that he tried and made at the combine. So I think I'd be familiar with him playing just down the road at St. John's. So I think there's a very strong chance Ben Bartch, if he's there, ends up being a Minnesota Viking late on Friday night. All right, moving into round 4. This is a guy who's really, every year you get that guy who is a late draft crush. And the more I watch on this guy, the more I read about him. He's definitely my late crush this year. It's defensive end from Michigan State, Kenny Lupagus. You got to love how this guy plays the game. He's a walk-on. He plays like that with every single snap. He's not an exceptional athlete. He's a hard worker, high motor that doesn't quit. He'll fight through guys. He'll battle guys. He brings the intensity every single play. And the Vikings have to get a defensive end fairly early in the draft. They're very, very thin. Dino Hunter on one side, Ifeadi Odenigbo on the other. Behind them, Anthony Zettel and Eddie Yarbrough. Man, if Hunter or Odenigbo get hurt, the Vikings are screwed. They got to get a high, even 4th round would be fine. Someone like Kenny Willekes, it gives you a little bit of breathing room there, so you don't have to rely on Anthony Zettel or Eddie Yarbrough to get your pass rush there. All right, round 5, Vikings. I do believe they're going to take 2 safeties in this draft, one in the first 2 days and then one probably later on the 3rd day. But here I actually went a little bit earlier than I planned to because J.R. Reed from Georgia was sitting there. He is the son of Jake Reed, and that may or may not have had something to do with this selection. But he's got great size. He's 6'1", 202 pounds. Where he wins is he's very smart. He can anticipate what a receiver is going to do. He grew up with the game. Dale Carter was his uncle too, so he's got not just his dad, but he's got his uncle whispering in his ear all of his life. Understands the game of football. Understands what offenses are going to do. And and when he guesses what a runner or a receiver is going to do on his route, he's usually right. And he's a willing tackler. He'll come and lay a hit. So he doesn't have great speed or anything like that, but I think he's a solid, he's a solid backup safety NFL, probably a really good special teamer as a rookie. And it doesn't hurt that he is the son of a Vikings legend. So I do believe we'll be looking at J.R. Reed, round 5. All right, round 6 and round 7, this is where I think the Vikings flesh out their cornerback depth chart and also flesh out their offensive line. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they took multiple corners and multiple offensive linemen here. And that's kind of what I did to give you a little bit of a preview. With the first pick in round 6, I got the Vikings going with Dane Jackson, the cornerback out of Pitt. I love this guy, a lot of energy, and he's just so smooth. He just kind of floats across the field. Had a heck of a Senior Bowl. There's questions about his level of competition, but I think this guy could be, potentially a very good backup in year one, and maybe even get in, see a handful of snaps every game, work him in. I think he'd give you much more production than the average 6-rounder would. So Dane Jackson with the first pick in round 6. The second one, this might be a pipe dream as you see this guy all over mocks. Sometimes he goes as high as round 2. Sometimes he falls around 6, 7. It's Antonio Golden Gandy, the wide receiver from Liberty. He would give more size to the Vikings receiving core at 6'4", 223 pounds. He had a pretty nice Senior Bowl. He doesn't have great long speed. He's probably quicker than fast, and he also didn't, he wasn't asked to run a lot of routes in college. So, that would be something he'd really have to work on but he could come in and he'd probably be wide receiver 5 on the Vikings depth chart, which would be great for him. You can work him in slowly, maybe give him some red zone looks. But you got like the size he brings. So Antonio Golden Gandy, and that's why I think he might fall, just because Liberty, small school, and he's not exactly a burner. So and it's a deep class, so teams could go other routes instead of him. So maybe he's there around 6, and if he is, the Vikings should jump all over him. All right, that brings us into round 7. First pick the Vikings are making is he's going to probably convert to guard in the NFL, but it's John Runyon, the guard tackle from Michigan. He's not, the most physical guy, but he's very athletic. He's very smart, and he will get his nose dirty making blocks. He also has great NFL bloodlines, with his dad being a longtime tackle in the league. John Runyon, I think he could, he'd probably be buried on the depth chart, but why not let him compete for a starting job? I mean, it's not like the Vikings are loaded with talent at the guard positions. Let him come in, compete with Samia, with Elfline, with DeKoser, all those guys. So why not give him a shot? And Vikings with their second 7th round pick, I had them double dipping at the guard tackle spot with Kelvin Throckmorton from Oregon, probably just because it's really fun to say Throckmorton. And I can't wait to hear PA say it during a game. But anyway, this guy's very experienced. He's strong as heck. He's just not a very good athlete, and that's why I think he falls down the board. He can play guard. He can play tackle. You get the ability to fill 2 positions, depth at 2 positions with one player. It's very attractive, especially late in the draft. So, he did struggle at the East-West Shrine game. He didn't look very good at all. But, you take him. He's got those raw skills. You work him. You develop him. Potentially you get yourself a backup here that you can rely on in a pinch if you ever get into trouble. All right, last pick I had the Vikings taking in the 2020 NFL Draft is my boy quarterback Tyler Huntley from Utah. What I like about him is he's the anti-Kirk Cousins. He's a zone read kind of a quarterback. He can make plays with his legs. He'd be very exciting. You watch this guy in the preseason, it'd be a lot of fun. But he can throw the ball well. He likes to just throw to his first read. He doesn't like to go through his progressions. But he has shown a fairly strong arm, a fairly accurate arm too. So why not develop a guy like this? Gives you a little spark off the bench if you ever need him. He's probably at least a year and a half away from ever seeing any meaningful snaps in the league. He's got a lot of work to do, but you got to love all the raw tools he has. I think he'd be a very exciting player to have on the depth chart. So Tyler Huntley, last pick, quarterback from Utah. So I'm just going to go through the draft again here. My final for the 2020 draft season. First pick, cornerback Christian Fulton. Wide receiver Denzel Mims. Defensive tackle Ross Blacklock. Safety Kyle Duggar. Offensive tackle Ben Barch. Defensive end Kenny Willekes. Safety J.R. Reed. Cornerback Dane Jackson. Wide receiver Antonio Golden Gandy. Guard tackle John Runyon. Guard tackle Kelvin Throckmorton. And quarterback Tyler Huntley. So that's it. That's my 2020 Vikings mock draft. Hopefully I get at least a few of these right. I don't always have the best track record. But all it takes is one trade to make the whole thing completely meaningless, and that might happen, because I could definitely see the Vikings moving up or down in the first round this year. So again, remember, subscribe to our channel, the One Bar and Lupagus Show. Like our vids, and you'll be the first to see all of our breaking draft coverage this weekend. So from the Lupagus. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot. I give you guys a little fact here before I leave. So it turns out if you keep a goldfish in the dark, it'll lose its color and turn white. So I never tried it. It seems rude. And I think I'd probably spill the fishbowl over before I'd ever be able to check on him. So check back this week. All kinds of draft stuff coming at you. And subscribe, please.